Once again, I have to say that, well, regardless of the fact that Vecna kind of looks like a hentai monster with all those tentacles, I'm sorry, I watched a lot of 80s anime and it's what I see, all right? But besides all that, I truly do think that Vecna is probably my favorite Stranger Things character at this point. I don't know what that says about me as a person, but sometimes it's all right to actually like the villain as your favorite character. And this guy is just incredibly engaging and interesting to watch, whether or not we're seeing him actually as the Vecna creature, whether it's the flashback of him at the facility or whether it's him as a child. There's such a captivating presence about him, and also by adding him into the story, he really makes a lot of things from season 1, 2, and 3 like all fit together and all feel like it was part of one full cohesive thing, rather than just like coming up with new ideas every single season, which I'm sure is what they did. But having the character of Vecna to kind of tie it all together, how he relates to the Upside Down world, how he relates to the Mind Flayer, how he relates to 11 being like the number one child that was experimented on, it all kind of makes it come full circle, and it just works as like an incredibly awesome, engaging character in his own right. Now, I have finished season 4 of Stranger Things, and I decided in this video it's going to be all spoiler talk because there's no real way to talk about these final 2 episodes without spoiling things. So I already did a review of the first batch of episodes that came out for season 4. In that, I did kind of a non-spoiler section before going into spoilers. So if you want to see my like overall gist feelings about the season, I pretty much feel the same way now as I did then, so it works. There's no sense in doing another like spoiler-free video. So this is just going to be fully talking about everything that happened within those 2 episodes. So you've been warned, or if you don't care, or if you've watched the episodes already, here we go. So the main thing I want to talk about, obviously, is Vecna. Now, they added even more to his story here, which expands the lore, and I'm not the most well-versed within the Stranger Things lore, mainly because it's not a series that I have rewatched over and over and over again. I've seen every season, I really like the show, but I wouldn't call myself like a super hardcore fan in the fact that I don't know like every little detail that was mentioned about the Upside Down dimension and how it works. But from what I basically understand from these final 2 episodes and getting some insight into Vecna's character, how he's always kind of felt superior, how he didn't want to fall in line with the way that society had things laid out for him, how he didn't want to follow any authority, and how he believed himself to be like this great figure, as well with all of his killings and murders being a little bit more in his mind like mercy killing and taking this pain and anguish and, you know, all of these horrible negative emotions away from people by basically just offing them and getting them out. So he's like taking away their pain and liberating them in some way. Now, it was mentioned also before that things in the Upside Down, like the Demigorgons and the other creatures that exist, it's part of a hive mind. So they all have one full unifying thought process, and they're not really individualistic in any way, which kind of goes a little bit hand in hand with what Vecna was kind of doing, where he believed himself to be a godlike figure. He believed that he wanted to kind of rid this pain and suffering from people, but the reason that happens is because of our autonomy over ourselves, of our free will, of our humanity, of all these things. So when he gets to the Upside Down world for the first time in this flashback, we see sort of this like swirling particle mass thing that seems to have influence over that dimension. It sort of forms itself into like the Mind Flayer, which we've seen glimpses of before, heard things about, and it seemed like to be this giant spider creature that was controlling everything from the other dimension. But what this season seems to infer, and you guys like fully correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure there are some things about this that I don't understand, but what this seems to infer is that when he first arrived, when number 1 first arrived before the full Vecna transformation, he was able to maintain a control over these particles, and he basically shaped it into the Mind Flayer in order to influence and have control over this world, very much like a god, and very much like somebody that believes himself to be outside of society, believes himself to be outside of the rulings of other people, that can't stand having anything kind of dominating him or overtaking him. He believes himself to be on that level to where he shouldn't need to have that. So to have his own world that he can manipulate in his own way, create a hive mind, works kind of perfectly with his character. So I like that idea, and I like the little bit of a twist where the Mind Flayer isn't actually the creature that's controlling everything, but it's actually Vecna. So I like that idea. I don't know how other fans are going to respond to that. Maybe we were expecting like a big climactic fight with the giant, Mind Flayer creature at some point, but I don't think that's really going to happen. I think that Vecna is the guy, and the person that's going to have to be the final ultimate antagonist. And since he's aware, since he came from our dimension, our physical world, he knows there's an entire other world out there. Of course, he, after gaining a certain amount of power, we know that most people, when they get power, the only thing greater than that is more power. It doesn't stop. It's a drug. You get addicted to it. You get to a certain level, and then you need to rise even higher than that. Then you need the next high and the next high. And it's very much like how power works and how it influences people and how it makes them kind of become demonic in their own way. And so obviously he wants to get back into our world to do the same thing, but he's tried various ways to do this, and that kind of explains things that have happened along the lines of seasons 1, 2, and 3. In this season, he's opening this gigantic gate, and by doing that, he needs to open up 4 smaller gates by kind of like murdering and taking out these people that have experienced this intense trauma kind of brought on by this whole, all of the strange happenings that were going on in Hawkins. And so the 4th and final victim he had was, of course, Max, who he tried to kill earlier in the season, and then there's that iconic scene of her running away with the music and everything. Awesome scene. Probably the best scene in the entire season, actually. So what they're going to try to do is use Max as bait to kind of lure him out and attack him in various ways. Vecna's actual physical body kind of remains still when he's within this state, so you have... You've got Steve and a couple of the others kind of going in to attack his physical body. Seeing Nancy with the shotgun was awesome. Love to see that. And then, of course, 11 eventually enters into the Upside Down as well, battles Vecna within sort of that dreamlike world while they fight his physical body outside of that. So there's a lot of kind of crazy shit going on. I don't even know if I explained it right, but I thought it was pretty cool to watch. But we have this plot point that is, in order to open the 4th and final gate, Max has to die. Max is an incredibly beloved character, so is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? Since there's going to be a season 5, I could have imagined that Max was probably one of the main characters that was going to go. And they have this scene where she lifts up into the air. This whole scene was great, by the way. So she's here, and Lucas is looking over her, and she, gets lifted up by Vecna, getting attacked by him. And for a second there, I honestly thought she was going to die because they do the thing, like one of her arms breaks, her 2 legs break, we see her eyes kind of going out, and I'm just like, holy shit, they're actually going to go there. Like, they're actually going to do this. They're going to kill off like a main character. But then she kind of passes out, and later on we get this explanation that she kind of like technically died for a little bit, but 11 helps her, and then she winds up in a coma at the end of the season. And I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about that, because on the one hand, like, obviously I don't want Max to die. I like the character. I like her around. I think that she works very well within the cast and everything, so I liked her there. But at the same time, if those were the stakes that were raised and Max had to die in order for this to happen, then I feel like we should have felt those consequences, And like I said, it's like, how do I say this? I already started the video like praising Vecna, and now it's gonna look like I really wanted him to kill her. But it's not that I wanted him to kill her because I wanted to see a main character die. It's that these were the stakes that were raised, and this was the stipulation on it. And I feel like it kind of got worked around in a way that they might make it make more sense in season 5. She might, there still be consequences for what happened, but. That moment, especially with the character of Lucas too. So, this whole season, he was kind of like hanging out with the jocks, the popular crowds, and they were actively like hunting him down because they believed he was part of the Hellfire Club that killed the main jock character's girlfriend. And he comes in while this is all happening, and I love this scene. First of all, you already believe that Lucas is into demonic shit, and then you go into the attic and you literally see Max like levitating in the air. Lucas is the only one there. It's just like, that was great. It was like literally the worst timing you could possibly do, which is great for storytelling. And, the jock character really, like, he's really not a bad person. He's just incredibly misinformed, and he's grieving heavily from the loss of his girlfriend. And so that's what kind of makes it great too, because he comes in at this perfect moment, and Lucas is just a kid, right? Like, he's a teenager. Yeah, but he's not like, he's not armed. He doesn't have a weapon. He's not trained how to fight. This kid comes in with a gun who believes that he is like this satanic person, sees the evidence of Max hanging in the air, and they get into this fight scene. And I got to give it absolute credit. I don't know the actor's name, but the actor that plays Lucas, number one, full credit for going through that fight scene to begin with. It wasn't like beautifully choreographed or anything, but I felt the emotion there of a kid that like really didn't know what to do in that moment. And he was just like flinging punches, just trying to like get free so that he could try to do something with Max. And then afterwards, when Max kind of collapses, his emotion, like his delivery of like crying and mourning, what just happened to her. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was incredible. I thought that was some of the best acting I've ever seen on the show. And it was because of all of those things mixed together that Max surviving that kind of bothers me, because I feel like it just took a little bit of weight from that scene away, and I really, really enjoyed that scene. It doesn't make me like dislike the show or anything. It was just kind of one of those moments where it was like, man, like you earned that moment, and then you brought it back, and it's just kind of like, man. But then also in that scene, so the final gate opens, and then the poor like Jot character, he's laying on the ground and the gate splits open, and he literally just gets like eviscerated. I think this also is probably the best kill I've ever seen in Stranger Things. I was just quick, it like didn't see it coming. He's just laying on the floor, and like the split that opens the dimension happens right in between his body, and he's literally like split in half and burns into oblivion. And I'm like, man, like that was hardcore. Like he didn't deserve, like, okay, he was a douchebag. I'm not denying that he was a douchebag. Like he was a dick, right? I'm just saying from his perspective, he thinks that they're in this demonic club, and like he's mourning his girlfriend and he wants revenge, and look at the situation he walks in on. I'm just like, I'm not trying to be like apologetic for him, but he probably didn't deserve to be split in half and then burned like into oblivion. The other character death was Eddie. And this one, there are things that I was okay with about it, and there were things that I wasn't as okay about it. What I thought worked well was the death scene in itself, in that he has been kind of running away from all of these things the entire season, and we're luring away the bat creatures. And oh, of course, I mean, someone's gonna obviously call it out if I don't say it. The fact that he played Master of Puppets on top of a house to help lure the bats away was pretty fantastic, man. Hey, I'm fine with the song choice. I like Metallica, so it worked for me, especially in the 80s during that time period. I think actually Master of Puppets came out in 1986, so it makes total sense. I don't know, maybe should have done a Megadeth song. It was a good scene. I liked it, and his death scene was fine. Like the acting of the two characters, and Dustin, again, was really, really good. But my only gripe with it is that when it comes to character deaths, and again, it's not like I wanted a character to die, but I just feel like because the stakes are so high, I felt like Eddie was the safe choice to take out because he was the new character this season. So we've had a full season to kind of get to know him and to like him and to be sad when he dies. But I really thought they were going to go and take out like one of the longer running characters. I thought Max was for sure because of what was happening. I thought we might get, I was hoping Steve's my favorite of the cast, of like the main cast, Steve and Dustin. So, I don't want either of them to go, but I would have accepted it just with the fact of where we are at now in the story. So, I just felt like Eddie was the safe choice to take out, that if we had to kill any character, Eddie was kind of like the one to do it. So, I don't know. I don't know. The other things that were going on this season, it kind of wrapped up the Hopper in Russia storyline, which honestly in these last two episodes wasn't as great. I think it all kind of like built to a head when Joyce eventually showed up and we had that fight with the Demigorgon. I mean, he does have that moment with the sword, which is pretty cool. But it doesn't tie in really to like the major overall storyline, except for a couple little scenes, like when he goes and sees like the dust particles that they were experimenting on, as sort of like a precursor to learning about like how the particles influence things and what Vecna did to him. So there's a little bit of like hints there, but it's mostly like a Hopper Joyce story, kind of separate. Also the like Will and Finn and all those characters, and I don't know why his name escapes me, but Will's older brother as well. I feel like they had the least amount to do in this season. They had a little bit, they had a couple of really good scenes in the final episode. There's a good scene with them putting 11 into like the sensory deprivation thing and like some good dialogue back and forth. But overall, I felt like they got a little bit gypped this season, and maybe that's just because I enjoyed the storyline of Dustin and Steve's group like so much more. I felt like they were doing so many more things, and a lot of Will's group was kind of traveling around in a pizza van. And so I guess I just wanted a little bit more from their group to tie in a little bit more. There also is a couple of loose ends that are going on. The military that was there to hunt down 11. So 11 escapes from the facility. The Papa character, once again, even though he is basically trying to save the world, he's still doing it by chaotic means, and he still wants control over her. Or, he's trying to protect her, but in his own controlling way. So he finally gets killed. He finally gets mowed down by the military. 11 has that great shot where she throws the helicopter out of the sky. I thought the cinematography looked amazing on that one. Always look at the iconic one hand. I keep waiting for the moment. I know that like that's her move, is like the one hand thing when she's doing the telekinesis, but I don't know why. Like for some reason I would just want to see like both hands. I want to see it to go like super hardcore. Not that throwing another hand would actually make a difference, like logically. But like, I don't know. I just want to see both hands for some reason. But yeah, and then the gate is open. So Vecna is seemingly defeated. His physical body was like burned and like tossed away. And then 11, faced him within sort of their minds as well. So she won. But I don't believe that for a second. I mean, with the final season and his plan being to open the gates and stuff like that, he's obviously coming back for the season 5. And I don't really know where they're going to go from here, man, because it seems like Hawkins is pretty much fucked. Everyone's leaving. The upside down world is slowly merging with the physical world. So whatever is going to happen with that, I'm not sure. But I do sort of like that finale when they're overlooking the hilltop and they see basically the upside down coming into our world. So there's a lot of shit there that they can possibly do with that. I will say that season 4 is definitely the best season by far, as opposed to the first season. So since the first season, this is definitely the best. And if there is a season 5, well, there is. I really hope that they sort of like up the ante even more. I do hope they actually legitimately kill off a main character. Maybe I'm just sadistic. I don't know what it is. Fuck it. I just want to see it. And I really hope they go out with a bang, man. I hope Vecna comes back like more badass than ever, and we get sort of like a really good final climactic thing. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you watched the final 2 episodes of Stranger Things, if you care about the show, I know some people are like, it's too mainstream, I don't like it, but whatever, fuck it, man. I like what I like. I like all kinds of shit, man. I'm an equal opportunity storyteller. If it's a good story, I enjoy it. So let me know what you think about it down below in the comments, what you thought about the final season and what you think is going to happen in season 5. Let me know all that down below. Please like the video too, because it does help me out a lot more than you think. Also subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. And if you want to help out on that deeper level, check the links below. I got a Patreon, merch store, and various social media links where you can follow me. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll talk to you next time.